Well, hello and welcome to Life Made Well. My name is Joyce Holthouse, and I'm so glad that you are here. We are going to talk about how diet mentality holds you back, specifically breaking free so that you can have a healthier relationship with food, and especially for those of you that are doing intermittent fasting, because diet mentality it's kind of sneaky and it can be there in ways that you may not realize. So I would love it if you would hit subscribe and like this video. And I post videos weekly on intermittent fasting tips and tricks and also stories of amazing people. And one of those amazing people is here with me today. And I am so excited to have Michelle Montone with me. And I will post at the end of this video, I will post a link to a video that Michelle and I did where she shared her story in detail. But Michelle has been intermittent fasting for over 4 years, maintaining her weight, and it's truly become a lifestyle for Michelle. She's a mom of 2 amazing and adorable little boys and a wife, and Michelle is a podcaster as well. So she's got the Fast and Fabulous podcast that you are going to want to subscribe to because she shares encouraging and uplifting stories all the time. So Michelle, welcome. I am so excited to have you join me today and talk about diet mentality and how it can kind of hold us back.
Thank you for having me, Joyce. And I'm really excited to talk about diet mentality.
Well, you and I have both. I mean, gosh, Michelle, before you found intermittent fasting, did you do any other diets?
That's all I did was diet. That was my whole entire life. Since I was 15 years old, all I did was go from one diet to the next, one trend, fad, quick fix to the next. So yeah, I dieted from 15 years old all the way up till I found intermittent fasting.
Well, funny that you should say that because 15 was about the first time that I found dieting as well. And mine is what a lot of people would have considered a healthy diet because it was Weight Watchers. And of course, I did a lot of unhealthy dieting from then because I lost, gained, the whole yo-yo thing. And so, Michelle, when we find ourselves in the intermittent fasting world, it takes a little time for that diet mentality to leave, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It sure does. I would say like 75% of the battle at the beginning is trying to shake off diet mindset. And there's not one number I could give anyone of how long it's going to take. I
And
don't know.
so what would you say? So let's do this for everyone watching. Let's define diet mentality. When we say diet mentality, what are we talking about?
For me, diet mentality means that you live in a constant state of absolute just obsession with what you're eating, how to burn it off, how to either sustain your weight loss, or you're constantly stepping on a scale and even the slightest fluctuation of numbers is going to make your head spin. Living in that space for a long time. That's diet mentality. 100%.
And Michelle, you mentioned this, but it's a mindset, right?
Oh yeah. It's a whole way of being. And if I'm being totally honest, 4 years into intermittent fasting, even though I feel like I have shaken diet mind away, I lived that way for 37 years. So while I could sit here and say I am 99.9% free away from diets or diet mentality, I can't sit here with an honest heart and say that it doesn't creep in my mind still sometimes.
And so what does it look like when it creeps into your mind? I know for me, I know my diet mentality, things that still, like you said, I mean, 4 years for you, 3.5 for me, that it still kind of creeps in there.
So
But
yeah.
after 4 years, what does that look like?
Well, I'm going to give you like the best, most recent example. So I injured my back a few weeks back, and I am a very active person. I'm in the gym 6 days a week, working out, nothing crazy, but I'm used to it. It's part of my day. It keeps me sane. And so when I injured my back, the first thing I thought is, oh my God, I can't work out. What am I going to do? And it wasn't really about, um, it was partly of like, oh, I need to keep my mental state because it's part of my daily routine and my ritual. And if I get out of that ritual, I'm going to get off. That was a big concern. But the little like diet guy that was in my brain 4 years ago started to crawl out of his little hole and was like, hey, what if you gain weight? Then what? You stopped working out. What if your shorts get tighter? What if you get puffy? What if you get bloated? What? And I'm like, stop right there. That's diet mindset and get out of my head. And I
Yeah.
literally have to say it to myself that way because I know that as long as I'm clean fasting every day, I'm going to be okay. And to that, I am now a month after my injury. I have not been able to work out for almost a month, which is driving me yet crazy, but my pants still fit, everyone. So
Right.
don't worry. The clean fast always comes through.
Well, and you know what? You bring up such a great point because it does give you even a healthier view of working out. Right now, it's
Yeah.
not working out to make up for what I ate. It's working out because mentally I feel better, emotionally I feel better. Do you know what I mean? It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
more of a healthier outlook on what that means.
Yep.
I know I hear people say this all the time, but oh boy, I had a big weekend and I ate a lot of bad food. So now I'm going to fast longer, right? And I can remember when I would think that way, right? And not realize like that's diet mentality,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, yeah.
We shame ourselves for what we ate. You know, yeah, we just get overly obsessed with food.
Yeah, it really is. So just like anything else, this is life, and you're going to have birthday celebrations, you're going to have a vacation, you're going to have yeah, it could be a death in the whatever it is. You're going to have situations that pop up in life that are stressful, that are traumatizing, all those things that could make you have days where you don't eat things that you normally would. But that's okay. And through fasting, through going through this journey, you learn so much about yourself that you know that just one weekend or just one little vacation isn't going to be a deal breaker. It's not going to set you back, 2 years or put you back at your old weight. No, dude, just fast on. Fast on. Monday morning, pick yourself up, put your timer back on, do what you normally would do on a Monday. Don't go for some crazy old fast trying to burn down your glucose stores faster. Don't try to revenge fast, as I like to call it. Just fast on. Do your normal fast, get back to your normal protocol, and everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. The little bit of inflammation that you may have put on that weekend or whatever the vacation you just took, it will melt away in those following days when you go back to your normal protocol. If it does not, do not get obsessed with what you're doing. All you have to do is go back into your intermittent fasting toolbox, which I'm sure you probably talk about on here a lot, your toolbox, and pull out a tool that you may have not used before and try it. That's it. But I can say in my 4 years, just going back to my normal protocol, maybe shaking things up a little here and there, has always been very reliable for me to go right back to where I was. So simple, so easy.
I love, Michelle, that you said, don't revenge fast,
Mm.
right? Like
Hmm.
revenge fasting. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You don't need to get back at anyone because the only person you're getting back at is yourself. And why do you want
Yeah.
to be mean to yourself? You should be the kindest to yourself.
That's so true. That's so true. I think another way for me, and actually it was when I was a guest on your podcast, maybe 2 years ago now,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
been
yeah.
that I was a victim to the scale. And
Oh.
that was part of my diet mentality, right? Like,
Mm.
want to maintain my weight loss, want to maintain my weight loss.
Yeah.
So I'm going to weigh myself weekly or monthly or,
Mhm.
and then based on, like you said, based on what the scale says, that would impact how I felt emotionally or felt about myself. And
Mhm.
I remember you and we were doing a podcast together, and I I said I made the commitment right then and there, and I have not stepped on my scale
Still.
since. I
I mean,
still have
really?
not. The only time I have been weighed is when I went for my annual checkup to my doctor, and I
Do you
said,
look?
I told him, I said, I don't want to know
I say the
because
same thing.
I'm happy. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't dread, ooh, like here, I live in the Midwest, right? Summer's coming. I wonder if my capris are still going to fit, I mean, all that diet mentality that we get into, and a slave to the scale could impact whether I was going to be kind to my family that day or not. So it's
100%.
that freedom, right? There's so much freedom with intermittent fasting from those kinds of things.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, there's two flips of the coin of the scale. There's our side, which is like it messes our day up. When I was in my 20s and I was working out, I was a gym rat for very different reasons back then because I was the type of person that would go and eat a Dunkin' Donuts muffin and then the next day be like, "Oh, I got to go work out for an extra hour because I ate a muffin yesterday." It's so stupid. So, you know, I digress a little. So, getting off track, Joyce. So anyways, so oh my gosh, can we let's sorry, I'm like went off on a tangent and now
You're fine. It's
I'm
totally
losing track. This is what I do. Uh anyway, so now I go to the gym for a very different reason. However, when I was in my 20s, I'd weigh myself every single day, the same time. I had to be nude in the morning
yeah.
after I peed, after I went to the bath. It was a ritual. I stepped on the
Mm,
scale, and if it was point 0.2, point 0.1, it didn't have to be a pound. It could be a fraction of a pound. If it went up just a little, I'd get mad. I'd get depressed. It would change my mood for the entire day. And while the scale can be a good tool for some people, it
right.
it isn't for others. And while some people say, "Hey, not going on a scale for years at a time is how I got to be obese," understood, understood. But at the same time, you have to understand our side of the coin, which is
True.
going on a scale has mentally put us in this crappy spot that we don't want to be in. So we use other forms of measurement like honesty pants, like just a simple measuring tape, or hey, how do you feel? Do you
Yeah.
feel better?
Well, yeah. And I mean, I'll be honest, when I was in the losing phase of intermittent fasting, I did weigh. I actually,
Oh, I
from
weighed
Jen
too.
Stevens' book, she had talked about weigh daily and take a weekly average.
Right.
And so I did do that. And I
Mhm.
think because I was weighing daily and taking a weekly average, whatever the number was didn't bother me because I'm
Right.
like, I'll see how the average works
Mhm.
out. Maybe it was a half a pound that week, maybe it was 1 pound, but for some reason for me during that losing phase that took the pressure off,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which was good, which
It
was,
is because you can kind of if you can change your mindset when you're losing weight and just look at that number for data purposes only
yes. Yeah,
and do the average every week,
right.
that's very helpful. It is such a great tip. But if even that is getting to you every day, then I would say break out a different form of measurement. It's one that you can be mentally okay with
Yeah, because
because
it's
stepping on the scale every day, if it's putting you in a mood, eh,
and the scale is not really an accurate measurement, right? The scale doesn't say how much inflammation you've reduced that day or how much muscle you're building, or, it's not an accurate measuring tool. And that's, I think, a big thing that I try to get across to people is, because a lot of times I know people that they've quit after 30 days because they only lost 2 pounds. I'm like, that's fabulous. And, but again, we get so hung up with that versus this is a lifestyle, and, you're your body is going to heal. It's going to do all these amazing things. So that, again, I think that diet mentality really holds us back, and it really influences our success with intermittent fasting. I want to talk a minute too, Michelle, about extreme portion control, right?
Mm,
Weighing food, measuring food, counting calories, macros. Do you do that with your intermittent fasting?
no.
No.
God, that sounds really, really miserable.
Well, so I mean, because I started back in the day of Weight Watchers, right?
Mhm.
Counting points and counting, I've done my fair share of counting and measuring.
Me too.
And
Yep.
it I think that's one of the things that I absolutely loved about intermittent fasting is I didn't have to count, I didn't have to measure, I didn't have to go through my pantry and throw away all the food that now was no longer considered, you know,
Right.
a good
Every time you
food.
start a new diet, you had to go buy a whole new, pantry full of food and then a whole new refrigerator full of food. You don't have to do that here.
Right, right. And so again, I think that's part of that diet
Yeah.
mentality that really impacts, can really impact us. And so I don't know, Michelle, I want to leave people with something, maybe recognizing these signs and what can they do? Like, what can they do when they start to see some of these signs come up?
Well, I think it's really like ingrained in all of us. And it's sad because it gets ingrained from such a young age that we're
Mm.
cultivated to be like, I'm just thinking of like, Hollywood and like celebrities and, everybody's thin. And so we're just like cultivating this culture that we need to all look this certain way. And
Mm.
so I really feel like that's where diet mentality stems from. And you could go all the way back into like, I think of the show. I don't know if you watch Mrs. Maisel, the
Oh,
marvelous
yes,
Mrs.
yes,
Maisel.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, it's on Prime. It's on Amazon Prime. So if
yes,
you ever watch that show, it's a show that's about a female comedian, which was like unheard of in the 50s.
right,
And it they show like her mom and her, they're very tiny. They every single day are measuring their arms, measuring their legs,
right.
like they don't eat, which I found kind of interesting because of fasting. Like they wouldn't eat all day and then they have dinner. I'm like, but like
Mhm.
back then they would be like drinking gin though in the middle of,
Yeah,
it's like, I know, okay, oh, and they're smoking cigarettes, so yeah, okay. But that always reminds me of that crazy like thinking, and it goes all the way back years and years and years and years and years. I mean, I think of like corsets back in the 1800s where like women were literally like breaking ribs just to look a certain way, and
right.
we're
Yeah,
still doing it.
yeah,
I mean, it starts with like our body types and our in the way that our body's supposed to look. Like
yeah,
we went from a society that everybody wanted to be like the stick figure, females, to now everybody wants this hourglass shape with these big Muppet lips and these giant eyelashes, and everybody looks like a flippin' Muppet. And I'm like, what is happening here right now? So,
yeah,
diet mentality is not something that's new. It's something that is, I would say, a couple hundred years old or more. And unfortunately, it is a lot of women, and I wouldn't say it's not men at all. I know a lot of men that have extreme body issues,
sure.
extreme diet mentality. However, I do feel women are the target most of the time.
Right, right. And I feel that, part of, I think, getting over diet mentality is recognizing when it creeps in.
Oh yeah.
I know for myself, like, I can wake up one morning and I feel fat.
Mm,
I'm not any different than I was the day before, but that's how I feel. And
mm.
then I will just be like, yeah, that's diet mentality. That's not real. That's a lie, and kind of recognizing it. But I think the other is trusting in the intermittent fasting process because it works. You said this earlier, just fast on.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, fasting is the
Wow,
only way that I was able to kick diet mentality
right,
to that proverbial curb,
right.
and I don't think that I would have been able to do that had it not been for intermittent fasting.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was able to learn so much about what my body needs and what it definitely doesn't need.
yes.
And diet mentality, I don't need that.
Right, right.
Uh,
And so,
yeah,
yeah, I think, yeah, fast on, trust the process, um, and yeah, and just keep going and look for support. Look for other people that you can talk about that with,
yeah,
podcasts like yours, Michelle, you guys talk about that all the time and
mhm,
just kind of get an idea um, so that when it does come into your mind, you're like, oh, that's what they were talking about. That's a
mhm,
diet mentality. And that's
yeah,
what I'm really hoping that people come away with today is recognizing that that is that diet mentality. You don't have to succumb to it. You don't have to believe it. Again, if you listen to the stories of the intermittent fasting people who have been successful and believe in that, trust that process, that's going to help you to get over it and to get it out of your life. You will begin to see, I believe that you will begin to see a difference with that. Michelle, thank you so much
of course.
for
Thank
your
you for having me.
wisdom in this because I know you coach people and you see it all the time
I
and
do. Yeah,
and it's just fun to talk about it with another intermittent faster who gets it and who
of
still
course.
sometimes struggles with it. So
I'd be
I
lying to
so
say if I didn't.
yeah, right? I know. I hear you. I hear you. So again, I just encourage you and let me know in the comments any questions you've got about diet mentality or is this what you were talking about or feel free to comment. I love to respond to those and be a help to you in whatever way I can. Thanks again, Michelle, and I will see everyone soon next time we talk about intermittent fasting tips.